Welcome to Easy Eats. My name is Chef Yves Dechaine, and today we're in the Greener Villages Learning Kitchen with Neville Gosman, owner of the 105 River Ranch. Welcome, Neville. How are you today?
Yeah, well, it's great to be here. It's great to be here as another local businessman and another local friend. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, it's great. So today we're going to be making a frittata with you. But before we start into that, tell us a little bit about the River Ranch. People may know you from another part of your life. You used to be the pastor down in Majorville at the Baptist Church. So let's talk about your transformation and your switching of flocks, I guess.
Well, it's not as big of a leap as people would think. I served as a pastor for 32 years, and in this sabbatical time, I really wanted to do something that reflected one of my mentors from Carleton County, the late Reverend Fred Smith. And before he passed away, he was on his tractor up there in Heartland. And I always thought that I wanted, as a hobby, to be part of a farm. When we lived in Sussex, we did a few chickens, but we wanted to scale it up once we moved to Majorville, which is almost synonymous with farming in and of itself. So entering into that time of sabbatical, we started this 105 River Ranch in commemoration of the 105 that just goes right by our house.
Well, it's fantastic. But you said this is a hobby, but I mean, as a homesteader, it's more than a hobby. It's a lifestyle, and it almost takes over. I mean, your everyday.
Well, and that is true. It did have to become, in order for it to pay, it had to be more than just a hobby.
Yeah.
And so I've got 70 or so chickens that are laying all through spring, summer, winter. I deliver them around in various places, and until all of the professional abattoirs closed, spring, summer, fall, and early winter, I was processing probably about 100 chickens.
Wow.
Professionally every 10 weeks, from early spring right down through till December. And so that kept me busy on a regular basis. We were experimenting with vegetable plots, raised beds, soil samples, even met with the Department of Agriculture, registering the business. So it combined two great loves, my love and the creativity for business, but also my love to get back to the land, to recuperate. It's difficult being on call 24/7, 12 months a year for 32 years. And so it was nice just to be able to relax and recuperate and rejuvenate by being back in the soil and on the land.
How long have you been doing this?
So we started this pursuit of lifelong dream probably about 18 months ago.
Okay.
And coming into the fall of 2022, we knew that we needed to start planning, especially during the winter. And then we went in earnest that spring of 2023. We got our birds as chicks to grow the meat kings, and we bought the birds as pullets.
Okay.
Our 70 birds as pullets to start right away. About 19 weeks, the birds started laying at around 20-21 weeks.
So before we go any further, for those of us who don't know, or those who don't know, what's a pullet?
So a pullet would be almost like a late teenage bird.
Okay.
We receive them at about 19 weeks, and then within about 2 weeks they begin to lay. And based on my business plan, which is something that all that was new, the business plan demonstrated that it was more economical to get those birds laying right away instead of having to feed them for 21 weeks and get them ready for laying. So that's what we did. The pullet is just a teenage bird almost ready within a couple weeks of laying her first egg.
Right on. So you're talking about financially good like that. I'm sure that there's a lot of challenges starting this up. What are some of the biggest ones that you've faced?
The startup costs for the egg laying, the meat kings, the buildings, the feed, and I did everything out of pocket because I didn't want to go in debt. The building materials, it probably cost me $15,000.
Okay.
And we felt that as long as we didn't go out of debt, we could start it up, we could stop it, and I did not want to create something that would require me to reverse. So I built a building that someone could buy.
Gotcha.
I put the electrical system in so that it could be separated from the house. And so all these bits and pieces all throughout the property are self-sustaining, can be set up, tore down, so that if for some reason something should happen, I don't have to worry about selling the various pieces.
So your farm is in Majorville, and Majorville is famous for all that flood, which makes beautiful farmlands.
Oh,
but
yes.
I mean, how do you manage
Great
that?
place to live 11 months of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that flood and stuff like that, how do you manage those chickens?
Well, in 17, 18, and 19, we experienced devastating historical floods, the worst in history. It was bad not just because of the water level, but it's unprecedented for us to get 3 floods in a row.
Absolutely.
I mean, talking to the Big Potato Harvey family, you know, they hadn't seen anything like that. But this was another thing. When I met with the Department of Agriculture, because the rules for agriculture and buildings down in the Majorville, along pretty well much of the 105, had changed significantly. New rules had come in 19 and in 20. When I met with the Department of Agriculture in my planning to start the farm, they helped me understand what was wetland and forbidden from farming, and what I could use for the farm. So the 105 River Ranch, in its planning, had to sit down and talk with the Department of Agriculture so that I wouldn't be encroaching on what would become wetland.
Well, I mean, as a landowner and stuff like that, you want to make sure that nature gets what nature needs.
Yes.
And you're kind of working, you're a conservatorship with the land, right? So you want to make sure that everything's going well, and that way that you're not encroaching. And not only that, you want to make sure that the quality of your crops, and you're going to spend a lot of money planting in, say, those wetlands or those floodplains for it to just be washed away, and you're going to have to recoup again.
And that's an important thing. Majorville is a beautiful place to grow both crops and grow animals.
So being from Majorville, and you started preaching or down in 2016 in Majorville, if I'm not mistaken.
The Majorville Baptist Church, yes.
So you were part of these floods, and we were talking about these devastating floods. So did that bring you closer to the community and solidify your stay and wanting to be here? And
well, and that's part of the story as to why you would want to do farming anyway.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Yeah.
The congregation and myself, we were probably in 100 homes in Majorville. Majorville, in terms of the 17, 18, 19 floods, were impacted more than any other area along the 105. Yeah. And we were in, like I said, 100 homes with Samaritan's Purse, basically tearing down and stripping down the whole basement right down to the studs. But when the farm came along, I wanted to do something that was consistent with the community. Yes, you can help people, but also you can help people, you know, by creating the business.
Absolutely.
There's a mutual benefit there.
And I'm sure that with all that help, you're getting a lot of help from the community, being, I guess, fairly new and being surrounded with all these lovely people.
When I started the business, I wanted to do it old school, face to face.
So we'll be back after these few messages to make quiche with Neville. welcome back to Easy Eats. Again, my name is Chef Yves Dechaine, and I'm here with Neville Gossman, the owner of 105 River Ranch.
Yes.
So we're going to be making frittata today. So we mentioned that you farm potatoes, you got a garden, so we've got some scallions.
Yes.
You don't have any cows yet, so we're not going to talk cheese, but we've got cheese right there. We got a little cream, and we have your eggs. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a simple frittata.
Okay.
So the frittata usually has potato in it, but it doesn't always have to have potato. But this one here is a really nice stripped down, simple recipe. And with a frittata, like an omelet or anything like that, you can add it to fit your personality or whatever you have on hand.
Right. Okay. Wonderful.
All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn our heat up to a medium heat, and then we're going to get a skillet, preferably one that's going to be able to go into the oven. So nothing with passing handles or anything that's going to melt in the oven.
And one that if I desire to flip it, I could flip it all at once?
You could, but we're not.
Because that's what chefs do, right?
They do, but not for this recipe. So what we're going to do right now is grab that. We'll grab a little bit of cooking spray and just give it a little bit of a spray here, just to make sure that everything doesn't stick.
Okay.
And then we'll grab our potatoes and we're going to thinly slice them on the mandolin. Yeah. So this recipe calls for thinly sliced potatoes, but if you don't have a mandolin, you can use a knife. If you're worried about the knife, a grater works just as well. But
yes.
because I like the aesthetic that this gives, I'm just going to slice my potatoes on the mandolin. And you don't need very many potatoes. 2 small potatoes, half a pound roughly, just for this size. So like a 9-inch pan.
Okay.
And all we're going to do now is just add these to the bowl, and we're going to season them. So we're going to season them with a little bit of pepper.
It brings back good memories.
Does it? Yeah.
Chef Yves, because my mother put me in YMCA cooking class.
Oh, did she? Yeah.
And I saw the Girl Guides here the other evening, and they were singing songs, and it reminded me of my day with YMCA cooking class, which
a lot of fun. Yeah, good memories when it comes with cooking, right?
Yes.
So I've got a little bit of olive oil that's been infused with some rosemary. So we're going to also season this with a little bit of hot house pepper blend. So we made some chili powder here at the Greener Village.
You made that yourself?
We did, yeah, with right here with the peppers that grow around the round of the building.
Now, do you have a dehydrator for all those?
I do.
Those various spices?
We do, yeah. I've got dehydrator, and I also cold smoke, so that'll pull a little bit of moisture out of it as well.
Okay, there. Chef Yves making his own spices.
There you go. So all we're going to do is we're going to toss this up just like this, Neville, and then we're going to just kind of layer them out just like this.
Laying those nice and flat on the bottom of the skillet.
Exactly. So we're not going to toss them in because we want to have an even surface just like this. Yes. So there you go. And there we are. We're just going to float around. So if you want to just keep on doing that pattern right there. So while we were doing that, let's talk about the some of the community members that are helping you. You must have mentors and people that you look to starting this. Who has helped you along the way?
Well, as it relates to the bees, I really have to thank Ward Scott, Ruth McKinney, and daughter Kathy. Ruth and Kathy run the bee store just
up the road here.
Just up the road, 2 minutes from my house. And these were mentors of mine when I was starting the business. But also, I want to thank the New Brunswick Beekeepers Association. They're having their annual AGM March the 1st and 2nd in Moncton. And so my wife and I are planning to be away. And you know you're a farmer when you're doing your extracurricular activities.
Around the farm.
Around farming activities. And so, and plus I want to thank, from a business acumen point of view, Gwen and Eric Moxon. From Moxon's Country Pumpkin, and of course Mindy, their daughter. They've just been wonderful mentors because, and of course Larry Yerksa out there at the Hanwell, Alex Schulten at Victory. These are men and women who have come alongside, who have helped me. I appreciate Yvonne there on Peter's Meat Market. These are places that have sold and have given me advice on the size of bird and it's just been a wonderful mentorship.
Well, absolutely. And they're your neighbors, so they may have seen things that you're experiencing for the first time. Yes. So yeah, it definitely helps to have.
And it saves, I've often thought to myself, it's not experience that's the best teacher, it's experienced people.
Absolutely. Yeah. So while you're finishing that, I am just going to grab these, and we're going to add some eggs to this. So there we go. So we've got some of your nice fresh eggs.
Oh.
Were these picked this morning, or did you?
Some of them were warm, and the hens don't always stay on their eggs.
No, they don't.
So I'm thinking stay on those eggs, because as you remember, it was minus 20 the other day, and so even though there's a little bit of heat, I have to collect those eggs quickly.
Absolutely. Or else they will freeze. Let's talk about that. Those eggs, once they're frozen, can you still use them?
You can still use them. They do, once crystallization, sets into them, they have a tendency to, even though they're still good, they still have a tendency to kind of go a little bit cloudy and runny, but the nutritional value is still there.
And you can really tell the difference between these fresh eggs and the ones that you buy at the grocery store.
Yeah, the yolks just pop right out, and they're almost hard to break.
And that's what I was going to say. And not only that, the shells are a lot thicker as well. You can tell what you're well feeding your chicken.
Yes, sir.
There we go. So I've put 8 eggs, and that's a good amount for the size of the pan that we're using.
Yep.
And then to that, I'm just going to add a little bit of cream to this. If you don't have cream, you can add milk. If you don't have milk, you can add a little bit of water, or you can omit it altogether. Today we're using cream because we have it.
Yes, get all those spices in there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So what we're going to do now is we're just going to grab this, and we're just going to cover it a little bit like that, and we're going to have it covered for 3 or 4 minutes until the potatoes are tender to the fork.
Is it something where we want the bottom to be crispy, golden brown, that kind of a thing?
Well, it will eventually, because we're putting it in the oven, but it's kind of like making a crust. So this recipe is kind of making the crust out of the potatoes. So there's the difference between, say, this frittata and a quiche. Right. A quiche has a crust on the bottom. It's an egg pie. Okay. So this is kind of like a crustless quiche. Yes. So a frittata is Italian for fry up. Okay. So that's basically what we're doing. And you're going to wonder the difference between a frittata and an omelet is that in a frittata, your vegetables are fried on the bottom, and then you add the egg. With an omelet, you fry you get your egg going, and then you put your vegetables, usually raw, on top, and then fold it over.
Well, I'm getting an education here, friends. Thank you, Chef Yves.
No problem. So once that's all put up like this, all we're going to do is we're just going to add a little bit of cheese, about a cup's worth of cheese. All right. And we'll add some salt and pepper, always important this season. Mm-hmm. Just like this. And then we're going to add a little bit of onion to this. Again, you can add almost anything you want to if you wanted to add peppers to this, or just simply keep it like this. If you wanted to add some bacon, or you've got some meat chicken, so if you had some extra chicken kicking around in the fridge, you could add that. It's a great use of leftovers. There we go. So what we'll do is we'll put most of the onion.
Chef Yves kept me away from the sharp instruments and only gave me the blunt potatoes.
The blunt potatoes to do, yeah. All right, so now that that's all mixed, we're going to check these potatoes here.
I see
them. And they're looking good. So all I'm going to do now, I'm just going to pour this on top, just like that. I'm going to make sure that everything is set like this. I'm just going to put the cover on that for a couple more minutes. So we're just going to take the lid off of this, and we'll slide this in the oven, and you're going to put this in the oven at 400 degrees for about 18 to 20 minutes. So we're going to do that, and then we'll come back after this break to show you this frittata. Welcome back. We're just about to pull the frittata out of the oven, and we'll take a look and see what it looks like. And there we go. Got this lovely frittata, nice golden brown.
Just like Mama used to make.
Yeah, just be careful with the handle. It's extremely hot, so a good tip is to always keep a cloth over top of the handle. That way you know it's there and you know it's hot.
Look at that. That looks fabulous.
So we're going to let this cool for a few minutes, Neville, but in the meantime, tell me about any future plans that you guys are planning for the new growing season.
Yeah, well, it's the 105 River Ranch. It's one of those things that when you discover something new, it takes a year to implement, usually. And so those best practices, for example, the soil for the veggies and the herbs, we're working on that. I had an overabundance of nitrogen in the chicken manure.
Okay, yeah.
And so I want to bring in something to balance that out in the back fields and in my raised beds. Another thing that is very important, because this is the time of year where I'm retooling my thinking, correcting mistakes that I may have made in the first season, but retooling also, talking to the mentors that I mentioned a little bit earlier,
Yes.
Adjusting some prices, asking myself what it is that I want to grow this season. For example, this is a wonderful little gadget, but it only works well until the cold weather.
And then it freezes.
And then it freezes and it becomes brittle and rubber gaskets and all that kind of thing, they don't work well. And so I had to figure out spring, summer, fall, and then ice cold weather, what's best practices, what am I going to do next winter.
And I mean, you're going to start planting here seedlings in the next couple of weeks now, aren't you?
Well, there's another, as to when.
That's it.
Is absolutely critical.
Everyone can come to the River Ranch to buy stuff. Do you have any favorite customers? Do you have any customers that you'd like to shout outs to?
Yes,
big supporters?
Yes. Well, as you know, we've run out of honey. We still have eggs. We have a few of the Meat Kings, 8 to 9 pounds. But in preparation for the new season, you reach out to customers. I'm thinking of customers local, but I'm also thinking of customers down, one particular customer, my family down in the Annapolis Valley, my sister, Misha Buruger Gosman Lee, my mother, Ann Gosman. They always come and get a trunk load, of food from the River Ranch. And so that's all part of getting ready for the new season, reaching out to your customers. It's new, hot off the press. Misha, my sister, will receive the Governor General's Award. We're very proud of her.
That's quite a feather in her cap for sure.
So I'm thinking that I'll just send a couple chickens to Ottawa so that they can feast during the celebration.
Well, there you go, perfect. Yeah. And speaking about feasting or trying, this is cool enough, and we'll get right into it. Yes. It's really simple. What we'll do is we'll just cut out a nice wedge, just like that.
And now I see the wisdom of slicing those potatoes thinly.
Exactly, and then we'll just pull that right out just like that. And there we go. We've got a lovely quiche right here. You wanted to try that?
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Neville, for joining us today, telling us a little bit about your story and about how you got into homesteading. It's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chef Yves. It was an honor being here and talking a little bit about the joys of farming.